Certainly there's a little bit of wiggle room there. But I think overall the news is not good. The picture does not look good for Boris. The Partygate scandal will dog him for some time to come. I don't see any clear way out of it. He is obviously an extremely skilled politician, extremely skilled campaigner when it comes to elections. So there's always the potential for him to turn it round. And, of course, there is the big question of, if not Boris, who? And the Tories have no good answer. I think what's interesting is the Tories still seem to be willing to tear themselves apart, even though they don't have a good answer.
Is this? I mean, how much is this about Partygate, and how much about the Conservative Party direction at the moment? Because when it comes to whatever you think about Partygate, he's had a fine. The Sue Gray report's out. It's done and dusted. I mean, there's nothing. You can't resolve it. There's nothing that can be done now.
Well, Partygate is the above-ground reason for this crisis. The subterranean reason, the bigger reason, is the cost of living crisis that a lot of Tory MPs know will hurt them. And there's a lot of anger out there, and rightly so, about the cost of living crisis. The government doesn't seem to have a firm grip on the economy. And I think the worry for a lot of Tory MPs is they could be facing a real thrashing. And they don't know if Boris can lead them out of that. But they don't also have anyone else.
What's the landscape look like in the short term? I mean, there's been some speculation that there might be some resignations, there might be some reshuffles. We can expect, of course, this by-election to be very difficult for the Prime Minister. And indeed, we've got this parliamentary inquiry into whether or not he misled Parliament. Short term, at least, looks a little bit bumpy.
I think the short term is bumpy. I think we're in a state of sort of turbo paralysis. Where the government will just carry on going from sort of crisis to crisis. We'll end up still talking about Partygate, even though nobody wants to, for several weeks ahead. Boris said yesterday he didn't want politicians to dance to the media's tune. I think that's a bit like, with Tories certainly, it's a bit like asking a sort of bunch of drunks in a pub not to drink. It's not possible. The media does call the tune. So he needs to find a way of getting around that, and I don't clearly see how he does it.
There's something... I mean, look, I know it's how politics works, but there's something a bit off, I think, when you look at it and say a lot of these... As you point out, a lot of these politicians are doing what they do, voting how they vote, simply because they want to save their own skin.
Yes. Well, it's revolting, isn't it? Politics is revolting. And, I mean, I find it very, very funny watching sort of some of these Tory MPs who have absolutely no honourability at all, no honour at all, talking about, how we need an honourable figure, we need someone, they're all backstabbing snakes, or at least most of them
Crikey, I mean, is that fair? There are a lot of people who would be at home thinking there's people who are there in public office who have lots of integrity.
I think
it's a bit of a wide, a bit of a sweeping thing.
There's the odd exception.
I think when you look at the behaviour of a lot of the Tory rebels recently in particular, you do see that they summon up honour when it suits them. And when they don't need to, they can be backstabbing. And I think politics has always been, there's no point pretending it's a pretty business. It's not.